Welcome to the contribution from myself and my daughter. Here you will see the agenda for today. It's an introduction to social engineering and bees, respectively beekeeping. We will cover different topics today for you. We will show you the bee house, for instance. We will talk about fake honey. I will give you some links for fantastic recipes you can make with honey. We talk about intensity levels, which is a really important topic. We will also cover engagement management. AVD, attack vector development. Approach selection method. Hi, my name is Dom. I'm working in InfoSec for over 25 years. I'm a Harvard X cyber risk tutor and I'm from Switzerland. And my most favorite topics are social engineering and honeybees. It's one of my hobbies. So today I will walk you through this PancakesCon 2020 quarantine edition through both of my favorite topics. Hopefully you can get something out of it, you can have some fun, and it's worthwhile your time.
Hey! Hey! I'm Avers, and I am a hacker.
Ja, weißt du. Fire alarm. What? Yeah, just set a fire alarm. No, it's okay. What? Hang on a sec. No, just again, fire alarm. Yeah, no worries. This must be my daughter. Cannot be someone else. Avers! This must be my daughter. Cannot be someone else. Avers! So, hi. Welcome to my bees. So the first thing you do is you go to your bees, you approach them, but then you stop. You stop in front of the bees and first determine if they are friendly today or if they are not. Make sure you check this out first. So it appears to be they're quite friendly, no attacks so far. Let's see if we can catch one which has the pollen on its legs. Yeah, there is one. You saw that one? Very quickly went inside the hive. There's another one, fully loaded with pollen. Now I can introduce you to some of the basic tools. This is a smoker. No, it's not what you think. It's for give a little puff to the bees so they stay a bit more calm. That's for grabbing the hives take them out and have a look. And this is also a tool we use for beekeeping, but you will see later. Här op eine Ecke stellen. Yum! Natürlich ist der nicht. Oh, look at this. Yeah, good. So this is now honey, fresh from the bees, as fresh as it gets. If you ever have the opportunity to eat fresh from a honeybee hive, it's amazing. Unbelievable.
There are 3 types of bees in every colony. You have the drones, the workers, and the queen bee. The queen bee is the most distinctive bee. She's the biggest, she has a very distinctive abdomen, so she's easy to spot if you know what you're looking for. She can lay up to 1,500 eggs a day, and she gets to tell all the other bees what to do. So, let's talk about drones. Drones are the male bees in the hive. They have one sole purpose, and that is to mate with the queen. Worker bees feed the drones throughout the entire season, just so they can then try and mate with the queen. If they do so successfully, they die. If they don't, the worker bees who've been working their asses off the whole season will kick them out and let them starve to death. Now, to the worker bees. The worker bees are the females, the girls. And of course, they're the ones doing all the work. They tend the hive, they tend the queen. They live roughly for 63 days. That's their cycle, and then they die, leaving no offspring. Worker bees lack full reproductive capacity. Okay, so here I have a jar of honey. It's 500 grams. Let's put that in some context. One worker bee in her whole lifetime can produce about 5 grams, so roughly 1 teaspoon. That means for this jar, it takes 100 worker bees' whole life to fill it. That's pretty impressive, considering that their brain is only a sesame seed big.
From the bees, and ready to talk to you about social engineering, the basics. So, PancakesCon 2020 Quarantine Edition. And let's get started talking about my most favorite topic, social engineering. So, social engineering is often seen as fishing, spearfishing, or whaling, as you can see here. But I believe it's much more than just those topics covered with social engineering. Within social engineering, we actually talk about shoulder surfing, pretexting, ego, whaling, the use of ego as an attack vector, actually, because ego is one of the best attack vectors you can use. It's about the use, for instance, of authority for your attack vectors. It's tailgating, it's liking, it's baiting, etc., etc. You can also look in the book. You will receive the ebook for free, and you can have a look there. I have sorted this out there in much more detail than we can cover here within this short amount of time. As for social engineering, I believe there must be a better definition what social engineering actually means and what it entails. So I have a definition for social engineering myself. It's the elicitation of information from systems, networks, human beings, through methods and tools. But what is social engineering? Still no answer what social engineering actually is. As a matter of fact, I will compare it with this. For me, it's actually finding the jemmy, the crowbar, the emotional crowbar to attach and then push. Who can become a social engineer? I believe everyone can become a social engineer. It's not just like technical people or people from other fields. I think it's a good mix. It's also a good mix of skills and knowledge you need to acquire, or you can acquire, or you can bring to the table to social engineering engagements or to attack vector definitions. So for instance, if you like to work with people, you maybe can work in the front line of social engineering. If you like to work on tools and programs and processes, you can work in the background of social engineering attacks. So what are you looking for as a social engineer specifically, so that you can leverage, so that you can use your crowbar or your jemmy? So you're looking for out of character behavior, for instance, or you're looking for emotionally loaded areas. So there you will have the most success, because there you can generate leverage and actually use your attack vector, a general attack vector or one you have specifically designed for maybe a person, an event, or even a company. I found one of the most important skills for a social engineer is actually observation, mirroring, and then adopting. And this because if you are working in different places of the world, in different cultures, you need to see how it works there. For instance, also at a party, how do people behave? Do they shake hands or not? Nowadays, probably not. So you need to get the gist of the culture. So these skills are actually very important for a social engineer. Also, if you want to blend in, if you want to disappear in a crowd and not stand out, then probably you observe first. And then you start mirroring the behavior of the other people around you. And then you adapt to the behavior. This is actually more of a technical expression. What I believe would be just fantastic if we could download this to the human beings as a software release. That would be absolutely fantastic. But of course, that won't work. So let's look a bit at the history of social engineering, or let's say con artists that we had. Here we have some examples of some con artists. We have Frank Abagnale. You know that maybe him from the movie Catch Me If You Can. I actually met him in Australia once. He's quite a likable guy. Then we have different prospects here. We have Kevin Foster, Bernard Madoff, or Bernie Madoff, the so infamous Ponzi scheme. Then if you go further on this side, we have William Cloner, Victor Lustig, Charles Ponzi, and William Thomson. And by the way, a Ponzi scheme is not a pyramid scheme. They are different for what they do. So from this side here, I thought I want to talk to you about Victor Lustig, because he is quite interesting. It's also interesting because Lustig or Lustig means funny in German, so it's Victor Funny actually. And I was reading his story. I thought that's quite interesting what he actually pulled up. So he was basically the guy who in 1925 sold the Eiffel Tower twice. Back then it was a leftover of the World Ausstellung, and he went then to the authorities and said he can sell the Eiffel Tower for scrap value, which then some investors believed to make their deal of their lives and invested in the scrap metal value of the Eiffel Tower. Then when he sold it the first time, the people he conned were so embarrassed to go to the police or talk to anyone, they didn't tell no one. So he then thought, all right, if that worked once, let's just make it work twice. And he actually sold the Eiffel Tower twice, 2 fois. Then on this side here, you see what's called the Romanian box. And I think what he did there was even more astonishing. So he created a quite complex and nice looking wooden box with a lot of handles on it. With this box, he made his victims believe that they can make copies of $1,000 notes. Of course, Viktor Lustig manipulated the machine, and he put in a $1,000 note and the second $1,000 note. So when he had his first clients, he went to them and said, a copying process takes about 6 hours. So he went to them, said, okay, he's now making a copy of a $1,000 note. He made the first copy of the $1,000 note, and then they were waiting to make a second copy of the $1,000 note. After then the client have 2 real $1,000 notes, they really believed and were hooked on this principle of this machine, that this machine could make copies of real banknotes. So of course the tricky part here was the 6 hours. So these 6 hours allowed Viktor Lustig to actually then remove himself from the scene, and he could flee. And of course, the buying price of this machine was astonishingly high. So I thought this is really a guy who pulled this in 1926, actually, with the Romanian box, which is quite astonishing. And also it shows a bit how people think and how people react. So people do really believe things which are too good to be true. So it's quite amazing. Let's have a look at the engagement management method. So the book was not just written for fun, it was actually written with different purposes in mind. So for instance, it should help you as a maybe new engineer entering social engineering. It can help you as a company, maybe making more business. So maybe instead of just offering pen testing services, you can also offer social engineering services. So I know it looks quite complex, and it's not quite a good picture, but you will get a better one. But this actually shows each process you should actually engage in if you're doing social engineering engagement, and how you should manage your engagements. I prepared this process and basically project management methodology because I've been involved in many penetration testings and security audits and gap analysis all over the world. And risk management is one of the most important topics there. So if you have a big corporation who wants to do penetration testing, or for instance now social engineering testing services, you need to have a method in place so you can work with them, so you can reproduce the same results year over year, and you apply the same testing methodology within maybe one engagement or internationally within the different areas. I think it's a very important part of the work as a social engineer. Now I will show you something which I believe is at the core of this whole social engineering engagement framework I created with my colleague. I believe this is the most important bit, and if you don't remember anything about it, remember this. It's very easy. It's like basically an ample system. So it shows red, green, orange, and of course black as well. What it means, if you're engaging in social engineering services within the green area, you are okay. These are services you can execute. You know your customer, you know your project, you know what you're doing. So these services can be just executed fine. If you're engaging in services which have a risk level of orange, you need to consider, at least you need to consider from your company perspective if you want to engage in those type of services. The same then applies to the red services. As a company and in the commercial environment, actually I think there is no need to actually think of engaging in social engineering services which have a risk rating of red. It's completely unnecessary. But also you can use this chart as your personal ethics charts. You can say, I do penetration testings if I have the necessary risk letter signed, or I do these and these services. Also, on the other hand, you can say, I will not engage in services which might have or bear the possibility that I will commit a crime, for instance. So some things, what comes to my mind just right now is, lots of people engaging in social engineering and thinking, oh, it's great, and I will have maybe an ID, and I fake an ID, or I will fake a document to get myself an entry, or maybe a badge, for that matter. But the problem is, if you do this, it's forging documents. And forging documents is actually a felony. So it's a major crime. And if you have committed once a major crime for just like a stupid social engineering engagement, it's really bad. It will stick to you, it will stick to your record. So always make sure before you're engaging in social engineering services, or for that matter of any sort of engagements you are asked to do for a client, what's behind them? Is there any specific risk, for instance? So maybe I will talk a bit more about that one later. Then attack vector development. Attack vector development looks a bit like that. So we do have different attack vectors, which of course are depending on the task or on the amount of budget you have to develop an attack vector, and also depending on your target. So on the, well, maybe it's on the left-hand side from you, is the effort and the cost to develop an attack vector. On this side is the importance of the engagement or task. Of course, if you do have not a lot of time and not a lot of money to develop attack vectors, you are staying to the standard attack vectors, AVs. I will show you some of them later. If you go up the curve, you have more specific and dedicated and very detailed attack vectors. SCR map is a very specific map we do, that's social engineering engagement framework. You can do psych profiling, NLP, Galdini 6, you do whaling, can use the Maslow hierarchy of needs, for instance, to create attack vectors, and so on and so on. So this chart actually shows you in what type of attack vector you want to engage, and of course they have an impact on cost. As here you can see, for attack vector development, is the decision tree on the left-hand side. Do you want to use a standard attack vector, which is available, which has a description, which you know the expected results of this attack vector, which can be scaled, is already developed, and doesn't need a lot of time to being rolled out. We talk about here maybe like phishing email templates, for instance. Here you see some other standard attack vectors like impersonation, dumpster diving, and eavesdropping. But with all these attack vectors, and that's also in the book, then you need to make sure about the risk you're engaging with. So for these ones, I have a definition of risk management. For dumpster diving, there are certain risks with it, because if you're on the property of the company, you cannot just take their dumpsters or their garbage out. You wouldn't be allowed. It would be a crime. In the public, you have to be careful where the dumpster or where the bin is, actually, to take some documents out. So there are some refinements with these attack vectors, but these are pretty the general standard attack vectors. Now I will show you the... Let me click to the next slide here. Here's the whole attack methodology. It's pretty bad. Welcome back to my next part about social engineering. I was cut out, battery died on me, but now let's continue with that topic. So the next topic I want to introduce you is this. And this is the whole process, basically from information collection through information documentation, through the development of an attack vector, through the approach selection method. So let's have a look quickly at those individual items here. Information collection. So you need to collect the information to create your attack vectors as a first bit. So you can either buy this information or you can make it. So it's open source intelligence, for instance, different intelligence report you can buy. You can send out the red team, blue teaming, collecting this information, and then based on this information, you're documenting the information. So either it's fact-based documentation of information, so basically raw information, or it's intelligence-based information. Intelligence-based means there has been information, and people, or maybe machines, artificial intelligence, whatever, has made decisions on what this information means. So they made an interpretation of the information, which is totally okay. Out of this you have a work paper, a report, or you have a classification. This then flows into the attack vector development. So because it's the basis for developing your attack vector, you need information, you need intelligence, you need, okay, how does workflow work at company XYZ for phishing initiatives? You need to know the organizational structures of companies, money flows, etc. So this information flows then into the attack vector. And in there, you do the analysis and you select what might work best as your attack vector based on the topic you want to achieve. After that, you have defined your attack vector. You actually select the approach. How do you deliver this attack vector? Do you have to deliver it simultaneously on multiple places, internationally? Is it person-based? Attack vectors for Christmas with Santa Claus don't really work at Easter, for instance, and so on and so forth. And then you exploit. And that's the whole process in one picture, basically. So let's click to the next slide. How do you develop then the specific attack vector? So this is then how we develop the specific attack vector. So we decide, is it person-based attack vector or is it a technology-based attack vector? So either you send the person in to collect information, for instance, intelligence, or you're sending them files, for instance, malware, etc. Then you have on-site and remote option, location. You have to go to a specific place because it's a physical location, or you can do it remotely, sending emails, sending files, making phone calls, etc. Then here you define the actual attack vector, because everyone would love to develop attack vectors with endless money and endless time, but in the business world this is not going to work. And also you need to be risk averse, so usually big corporations don't really like to engage in big risks for operations. So you then define what we call the attack vector principle. So is it well-known attack vector, or is it a dedicated specific attack vector? The principle you can see here is this bit. So either you use Maslow's pyramid as an attack vector, SCR map, NLP, Caldini 6, social media, mice, curiosity. Most often it's curiosity. So for instance, in phishing emails, it's a competition, you want something, so you kind of play on the factor of curiosity of everyone in an email, in a phone call, in whatever, winnings, earnings, etc. Deception, of course. CEO fraud is based on this principle. It's time-based. So sending out phishing emails maybe Friday 4 o'clock is better than sending them out Monday at 9, where everyone is in the office. You use the principle of authority, of scarcity. Something is limited edition and scarce, for instance. You play on the helplessness of the victims, on the politeness, for instance, scanning or intimidation, charity or persuasion techniques. So this then will then be combined when you have once selected this part with the sweet spots, weaknesses and strengths or out of character behavior you have based on your information collection. So of course, for me, for instance, if I'm heavily involved in beekeeping and honey and all this stuff, maybe you can send me phishing emails about honey, new discovery of a fantastic bee. So obviously I would then be curious about this and read it, open the attachment eventually, etc. The beliefs and influence, or emotional and financial pressures, or out of character behaviors. Now this is important too. These are the constraints, because you won't have endless time and endless money usually, so you have, with the time you have available, create a good attack vector. Also the chances of success are important. Sometimes you can only make one-offs. You have one chance to get something right, and other than if it's not going to work with this attack vector, phishing, emails, campaign, etc., you have to go for another route. Or people, they inform each other. If they found out about a suspicious email, they will talk faster than you can send a second phishing email, etc. So this is now the constraints, money-wise, skills-wise, intensity level wise, of course. And then you go into this. I explained this to you before. You engage only in green level services, orange or red, or you say, okay, I only do the black stuff. Who knows? Usually it's enough if you engage in green level to get repeatable and results which are relevant on a corporate level. It's totally unnecessary to go to a deeper, more risky level. And then you have the GRC, which is also setting the boundaries. It's about culture and it's about respect. So this is how you compromise an attack vector. If you once defined one, you keep it basically in your database and you pull it up for the next time. And you adjust the settings maybe of culture, of language, and of setting, and a specific sector, maybe a company or a business is in. Let's click to the next slide. Here just is a bit of additional information around personal space, how that actually works, and the part we actually call the reaction zone. Now it has definitely changed with Corona. People have more distance towards each other, physically, hopefully not emotionally, but that's the basic. As a social engineer, you need to know a couple of basics. If you work with people, around people, talk to people, and try to make them what you actually want to make them to do. So you have a specific zone in the middle, where you are the person here. This is the intimate zone. And it's about the family, which is usually in this intimate zone. Then on the outer circle, you have like a personal zone, with friends, a social zone, work colleagues, and a public zone. Of course, it looks different now. It's definitely changed but this is just roughly gives you an idea. And the reaction zone basically just means if you approach a person within this zone, maybe now with Corona, it's exactly that 2 meters or 1.5 meters they recommend, you will definitely provoke a reaction. So maybe you want that, maybe you don't want that. So just keep that in mind. If you're approaching a person, it's always like a gate. And for each of these gates, you have to kind of like get the formal permission or informal permission to approach a person. Otherwise, the person will react fight or flight and either leave or you won't get what you actually want from that person. So you need to ask for permission. You can be, as I sometimes say, coughing, but it is not a good methodology now. You can drop your keys, you can nestle on your phone can ring, and then you get this person's attention, and then you can walk further. But if you're running very fast towards this zone here, you get an unwanted reaction. So let's click to the next slide. This is just a bit of more theory for you, but I will go very quickly over that. Zones of approach. It's very uncomfortable being approached from the back. It's a bit different for women and men in the perception. Women tend to have a bit a wider angle, acceptable angle. I guess it's because they're watching out than maybe men. So best approach is in the green zone. Obviously, you approach a person from the front. It's a bit more different in this context. Military personnel, they don't like to get approached from any direction except from the front where you're talking to them. So keep that in mind. Here we just have very quickly a diagram about touching a person on the body, which you actually should not. In no culture or in no areas of the world, this is probably okay. But just to give you an idea, totally taboo are these areas here. For men, it's a bit more on the shoulders, like a tap on the shoulders. You also can get killed for that one, but it's more acceptable. And maybe around the hands, you could probably touch a person. It's with the women different. I will just show you that. Just need to click to the next slide. So click. With women, it's like this picture, so it's really only could be okay, and it depends on the culture as well, where you can actually touch another person. But nowadays it's anyway a bit who touch another persons. So now bringing this to some practical use. This whole model I just showed you very quickly. If you approach a person sitting on a desk like this, Obviously, never approach this person from the back. It's very uncomfortable for the person. For the person, it's not because maybe the person is surfing porn or doing something other illegal. It's just very uncomfortable, and we will never have a good start talking to this person. Also, keep that in mind if you're maybe a team leader of sort, that you approach a person preferably from the front. You don't see the screen of the person. You are polite to this person, and then you can have a good rapport with this person. Also make sure that you don't sit on a person's desk, because that's a big no-go. That's very aggressive, passive-aggressive move. So just keep this in mind. If you approach a person, wherever you are, in whatever context you are, it's a good thing to keep in mind how you make another person comfortable talking to you. Then here I just worked through a bit more about the target selection for a person, company, or a place. Where do you get your targets? How do you get them? It's about open source intelligence. It's about making use of information available. But here are a couple of hints what you can actually do, depending what you want to. If you want to get in touch or get to know people from conferences like PancakesCon, for instance, you go to these conferences, you see these types of people there, but also you know from experience that maybe people from this and this company usually go to this pub, so you can go in there if you want information. So this is just like a help for target selection. Then I'm coming to an end, and I know you have endured a lot for the PancakesCon 2020 Quarantine Edition. So now, since you have been through all this, I do also offer you this certificate for completion. So you now know the basics about social engineering. You have the ebook, and also you get this certificate, and you know the basics about beekeeping. So take care of yourself, stay safe, and I wish you a nice day for the remaining of this quarantine. Thanks.
Welcome back to my kitchen. Let's talk about honey. Some more honey. This is some testing. So honey has been shown a lot of health benefits, both when eaten and applied to skin, for instance. Honey has always been regarded as a medicine, so to help with everything, sore throats, digestive disorders, skin problems, and hay disease, for instance. Honey has antiseptic properties and was historically used as dressing for wounds and first aid treatment for burns and cuts. The natural fructose in honey, fructose and glucose are quickly digested by the body. This is why sportsmen and athletes use honey, give them energy boost. Honey lasts incredibly long. There has been an old jar found in Egypt, over 2,000 years old, and honey supposedly still is good. Cleopatra used honey as a beauty ritual. Honey has the ability to attract moisture, meaning that it has long been used as beauty treatment. Honey is incredibly healthy. It includes enzymes, vitamins, minerals, and its own food. So let's do some testing with the honey. First of all, the honey with its property is also called crystallization. So if you look at this glass, the range you can see a little bit, it has crystallized. It's getting solid, more solid. So if you have old honey, which has been crystallized, don't you worry, you can still use it. But just give it a hot bath, not too much. Wait a bit, and then you will have perfectly clean honey again. So artificial honey will never actually crystallize. It will always stay the same. So the next test we can do is the water test. We have some water here. It's a kind of physical properties of honey, how this works. So you can test this out if you drop some honey into a glass. Then you see if it can do it very closely. So dropping honey in here. It's falling solid at the base, and it does not dissolve like some other things. Maybe I can show you this with some syrup, for instance. We should pour syrup into a glass. So all of it starts dissolving. So that's one of the things you can actually distinguish real honey from fake honey. That's when you're going to stir it. If it's something that has more moisture in it, and it's artificial, it will obviously dissolve. It's very quite key. Of course, honey, as you can see, it's falling solid on the base, will dissolve too. Let's just stir it. Takes a bit longer, but it will completely dissolve. But also you can actually start eating honey. Just in water, that's it. But when you dissolve real honey, it takes a bit longer, it will dissolve completely, but it will stay not so clear, as you can see here. Of course, the longer truth is. This is the water test. Then we can do the paper test. Take a piece of paper, which is lying here. Drop honey and stick and split it on top of it. Just like this. And of course, if I take some syrup, put the pencil, or there's a ketchup. That was a little bit. Yes, let's do it again. Or pencil it. I'll take about one cup. So, you can actually see that where the honey is, it's quite solid. So the paper towel cannot suck any moisture out of the honey.
And now let's quickly go back to the bread test. As you can see, this one has formed a crust. It's already like hard. And you can look at this piece of bread. You know, it's more soggy. It's soaked up ketchup. And here on this piece of bread, even when I break it, I can feel it. It's a bit elastic, and it looks like this. So if you would have fake honey, it would end up being like this, soggy.
Next test we're going to do is the microwave test. So take a microwave resistant piece of glass, put a little bit of honey in, and then we have to put it in the microwave oven on the highest setting you can put it. And let's see what we have here. It's 1000 watts, 30 seconds, and let's see what happens with that one. So it's bubbling a little bit, cooking very nicely. Still a couple of seconds left. Now it's 30 seconds, and now let's have a look. So we have done. Honey looks nice. Good, it smells good, it has caramelized. And if you would have artificial honey, it would really become bubbly and foamy. So now we can use it as well, to dry a bit, but then actually you would have some nice caramelized honey. Next test we do is the vinegar test. So we take water, we use a bit of honey, tablespoon or so, put it into the water, then we use some vinegar, just some drops of vinegar. Put them in here, start stirring it a bit. So it tastes like normal water so far, nothing specific. Also hope it will not indicate something, but no, it remains stable at the bottom, it behaves like the water. If you would have some fake honey, it would actually start to foam because of the properties of the fake honey. With normal honey, nothing is actually happening.
There is another test we can do with fire. So we just take a match and a piece of paper. As you can see, pretty quickly the paper burns. So now we take a bit of honey, put it on top of the paper. Oh, take another match. So now we will try to light that paper again. And you can see there where the honey is, paper doesn't burn. So that's the properties of honey. Fantastic.
So my last test we use the same test. We use some honey for this. And we can use some potato. Ketchup. And some homemade jam. There it is, right. Now work them in a little bit. Oh. Honey. Okay, I will show you how you can clean them. We go now over there. Just clean my hands. And here you can see, this is jam, this is potato, this is ketchup, and honey was actually here. And just got a little bit, so now you can see it. So here we have ketchup, here was homemade jam, here was potato, and here was honey. So honey can be washed off just with water without staining. Amazing. So I have a little recipe for you for sore throat. So honey and peppers are natural medicines against cold and cough. Honey and pepper could offer a good night sleep, which I'm going to do now. The wet cough or dry cough, a spoonful of honey and some pepper will calm you down. So both honey and black pepper have antioxidants, antiviral and antibacterial properties, and can fight against infections. So honey is a natural cough suppressant. Honey is said to be potent in mucus membranes and soothes the throat. So the recipe is very easy. It's 2 teaspoons of honey, a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, after you having had this, no water for at least half an hour, and if it's bedtime, don't forget to brush your teeth, because of decay of the sugar from the honey. So take care.